is now my great privilege to introduce Dr. Krassi Lazarova, Head of the Science Department and Professor of Physics at Centenary University.
And welcome all. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the second annual Northwest New Jersey Rivers Conference. I want to extend a warm welcome to all behind your screens, and I'm sure that the event will be just as productive online as it was last time. If you remember last time, it was great. I hope it is just as great today as well. The main theme of this year's conference is climate change, and I want to introduce the topic as a game of balance. We understand what climate change is. We understand why the climate is changing. We pretty much know the science behind it. It's very clear about it. I want to focus instead on a few local effects to start the conversation today. First, let's talk about where most of the warming is happening. Believe it or not, 93.4% of all warming due to the presence of greenhouse gases is happening in the oceans. Only 2.3% of it happens in the atmosphere, so most of the effect is in the water on Earth. Yes, water does have a huge heat capacity, but it does get most of the warming effect as well. Why is this important? Here are a few consequences of this warming. The fishing industry in New Jersey is already feeling the effect of warming oceans. Fish is moving north to cooler waters. The New England states will benefit from this move at the expense of our fishing industry. In addition, the increased absorption of carbon dioxide on Earth's waters. We are getting more acidic oceans and estuaries, which leads to damage to scallops, clams, crabs, and other hard-shelled fish. Farms wouldn't be spared either. We are experiencing more hot days and droughts during summer and fall months, wetter springs, and longer growing seasons. There could be a potential silver lining here. Grapes grow well in wet springs and dry summers. New Jersey may turn into a great wine producer as a result. The chart here shows crop yield in the United States since the 1960s. All dips in the graph of reduced crop yields are actually related to some extreme events, droughts, floods, or unusual climate events. In terms of natural disasters, 43.4% of all disasters in the last 2 decades were due to flooding. Another 28.2% were due to high winds, both effects of a changing climate. 45% of all affected people were due to floods of all natural disasters. Precipitations are also changing. Not all states are getting equal share of this. The western United States is getting drier. The East Coast is getting wetter. Precipitation from heavy storms has increased about 70% since the 1960s. We expect more intense and more destructive storms. This inevitably will lead to a more widespread and longer power outages. In the last 11 months since the beginning of this year, as you can see in this chart, precipitation in the Northeast region is not equally distributed. The New England states, while getting more of the intense storms, are still on the drier side, while the Mid-Atlantic is getting its share of rains. North New Jersey is also slightly on the drier side of the spectrum, and as you know, this is the region supplying water to half of New Jersey. Infrastructure will be affected as well due to the anticipated more intense storms. We'll have to redraw flood maps, we'll have to experience more intense storm surges, coastal erosion, washed out roads, inundated rail tunnels. The increased winds and floods will drive home insurance rates higher. As you know, we are also experiencing higher deductibles in insurance policies for wind damage. The number of natural disasters has been steadily increasing in the last few decades, mostly due to meteorological, hydrological, and climatological events, winds, floods, extreme temperatures, or droughts. Not too much change in data due to geological events. Climate is a very delicate balance of many factors. If you can take this message from me today, this is it. If you touch one tiny piece of this perfectly balanced system, it will have a ripple effect throughout the whole system. Why should we care? Because the 5 major mass extinction events in the last 500 million years happened due to a changing climate. We're heading into a 6th mass extinction, according to many scientists researching biodiversity. Remember, species that adapt are the ones surviving. The dinosaurs died of starvation due to lack of resources 65 million years ago, not for lack of room on Earth. We tend to go through different stages of grief. We went through the denial, we went through the anger, we bargained. I think we're somewhere between the bargaining and the depression stage. We need to go through this one fast and get to the stage of acceptance so that we can put our minds together and collectively solve the problem at hand. We have examples of collective wisdom prevailing in the past, so I think we can do it again. Please tune in tomorrow for our keynote speaker, Dr. David Robinson, our state climatologist. He will speak about the impact of climate change in the highlands. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce Elliot Ruga, Director of Policy and Communications at the New Jersey Highlands Coalition.
As we teeter on coming to that space in your timeline where we all accept the fact and have to work together to try to adapt, here in New Jersey, what do you think are the 3 priority actions that we could do?
That's a great question. The first priority, in my opinion, is to protect the waters, because as I mentioned, waters are the biggest absorber of greenhouse gas, carbon dioxide. The second one is for us to increase greenery, and especially in the eastern part of New Jersey, where the greenery, because of the big cities, is a problem. We in Northwest New Jersey don't have this problem. We have plenty of forests, but not in the eastern and close to the cities. The third one probably is for us to come up with ways to manage the extreme events in terms of floods, in terms of winds. They're coming. Lucky for us, we are not close to the shore, so we don't have to worry about that, but we will have to worry about floods and winds. The rest of it is more global scale, in my opinion.
You know, one of the conflicts I see arising, and Julia, you're certainly welcome to join in if you have any comments, is that when the coastal regions of New Jersey, parts of them become inundated and no longer habitable, people will be forced to move, or I guess the right term is migrate, inland and upland into the highlands, where we've just spent the better part of 40 years trying to protect its green spaces from human disturbance. How do you think we can best, I mean, it is, in my opinion, our obligation to, you know, not keep our fellow New Jerseyans out, but to share what we have. Any ideas how we could balance the interests we have?
Tough balance, in my opinion. That's a very tough balance. On one hand, how do you protect the region, and at the same time, how do you accommodate climate refugees? These are basically climate refugees from the coastal regions.
Yeah, really, it's a challenge to not only the land we purchase to protect, but the regulations we have in place. I mean, we have to. Can we figure out a way that we do not compromise the ecological values that we have protected, but also allow for more people in our region?
I think it nicely ties in what Freeholder Kern was talking about. It absolutely magnifies the importance of regional planning. It just can't be every man for himself or every town for themselves. We have to plan regionally to accommodate the future and plan wisely.
Well, we have about 15 seconds before our workshop starts. So I invite everybody to go over to the left side of their screen where they see the sessions buttons. That's where you'll find your workshops. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Freeholder Kern. Thank you, Professor Lazarova. And thanks, boss, Julia. We'll see you later.